The entire ballroom fell silent. Moments before his son's wedding, billionaire Graham Sterling pointed at the bride in front of hundreds of wealthy guests. "You're nothing but poor trash," he said coldly. "You will never carry the Sterling name." Tears filled the young woman's eyes. His son stood frozen. Then the ballroom doors slowly opened. An ordinary-looking elderly man walked inside, wearing an inexpensive gray suit. Nobody recognized him. 30 seconds later, every billionaire in that room stood up in complete shock. Because the quiet old man wasn't poor at all, and the secret he revealed would destroy Graham Sterling's pride forever. The Sterling family was one of the most powerful families in New York. Graham Sterling had built a billion-dollar investment empire. Newspapers called him the King of Wall Street. He believed one thing above everything else: money determined a person's worth. His only son, Adrian Sterling, had grown up surrounded by luxury, private schools, yachts, and business meetings. But Adrian was nothing like his father. Kind, humble, respectful. 3 years earlier, Adrian had volunteered at a community literacy center. That was where he met Lena Brooks. She wasn't rich. She worked 2 jobs while studying to become a teacher. She cared for children during the day and attended university classes at night. She never complained. She never asked anyone for help. Her kindness was what made Adrian fall in love. For 3 years, they kept their relationship private because Adrian knew exactly how his father would react. Eventually, he decided he couldn't hide forever. "I'm marrying Lena," he told his father one evening. Graham didn't even look up from his papers. "Who is her family?" "They're ordinary people." "What does her father own?" "I don't think he owns a company." "What about investments?" "No." Graham slowly removed his glasses. "So my son wants to marry poverty." Adrian remained calm. "I want to marry the woman I love." Graham smiled without warmth. Love disappears. Money doesn't. Despite Graham's objections, the wedding preparations continued. Lena never asked for expensive flowers. She never requested luxury jewelry. She only wanted a simple ceremony surrounded by people who genuinely cared about them. But Graham secretly had another plan. If he couldn't stop the wedding, he would humiliate the bride so badly that she would leave on her own. Wedding day finally arrived. The Sterling estate looked like something from a royal palace. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities, judges, and famous investors filled the grand ballroom. Every guest wore designer clothing worth thousands. Lena entered wearing a simple but elegant white gown. She looked graceful, not because of the dress, but because of the quiet confidence in her smile. Many guests whispered, "She's beautiful." Others whispered something else. "She doesn't belong here." Graham heard every word and smiled. Just before the ceremony began, Graham walked to the center of the ballroom. He picked up a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," the room became silent. "Before this marriage begins, I believe everyone deserves to know exactly who my future daughter-in-law really is." Adrian immediately stood. "Father," Graham ignored him. "This young woman comes from absolutely nothing." The audience exchanged uncomfortable looks. Her father has no business, no fortune, no influence, no respected family name. Lena lowered her eyes. Her hands trembled. Adrian wrapped his arm around her. Graham continued louder. "The Sterling family has spent generations building honor. And today, my son wants to throw it away for." He looked directly at Lena. "Poor trash." A shocked gasp spread through the ballroom. Several guests looked away in embarrassment. One elderly woman quietly wiped tears from her eyes. Adrian stepped forward. "Enough. No, Gram replied. I'm saving this family." He pointed toward the entrance. Security. 2 guards approached. "Escort Miss Brooks out of this building. If she truly loves my son, she'll leave and stop ruining his future." Lena's face turned pale. She looked at Adrian. "I never wanted this." Adrian held her hand tighter. "We're leaving together." Just as they turned, the ballroom doors slowly opened. An elderly man with silver hair walked inside, carrying an old leather briefcase. His suit was plain. His shoes were worn. He looked nothing like the wealthy guests surrounding him. Many people assumed he had entered by mistake. Security moved toward him. "Sir, this is a private event." The old man smiled politely. "I know." He looked directly at Lena. "I'm here because of my daughter." Lena's eyes instantly filled with tears. "Dad." She ran across the ballroom and hugged him tightly. The guests exchanged puzzled glances. Graham laughed. "So this is the famous father? You certainly look exactly as I imagined." The old man didn't argue. He simply placed his worn briefcase gently on a nearby table. Then he looked directly into Graham Sterling's eyes. His calm voice echoed through the silent ballroom. "You judge my daughter before learning who I truly am." He slowly unlocked the old briefcase. Inside was a single sealed envelope. "I've protected this secret for 28 years. He looked around the room. "But today, everyone deserves to hear the truth. We wanted the help to matter more than the recognition." Several guests stared at him in disbelief. One famous CEO slowly whispered, "That foundation has donated billions." Daniel nodded. "And every major decision required my signature." Graham's confident smile slowly disappeared. "Impossible." Daniel calmly handed another document to the judge. Judge Reeves read it carefully before looking directly at Graham. "These records are genuine. The Brooks Humanitarian Trust has influenced more lives than many Fortune 500 companies." A heavy silence filled the ballroom. Daniel looked at Graham. "You asked what I own. I own a small house. I drive a 12-year-old truck. My suits are inexpensive because I never believed wealth should be worn. It should be shared." The guests exchanged embarrassed glances. Many quietly lowered their heads. Daniel continued, "I raised Lena to respect every person equally. I wanted her to build her own life without hiding behind my reputation. So I never told anyone about my position." Lena smiled through tears. "My father taught me that kindness is the only inheritance that cannot be stolen." Adrian gently squeezed her hand. "I've always admired that." Daniel looked toward Adrian. "And that's why I happily gave you my blessing. You loved my daughter before knowing anything about me. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." For the first time in his life, Graham Sterling had no words. The billionaire who always controlled every room suddenly looked like the smallest person inside it. An elderly woman who had been invited to the wedding slowly stood. She was Margaret Ellis, founder of one of New York's largest children's hospitals. She walked directly to Daniel. With tears in her eyes, she hugged him. "You pay for our pediatric cancer wing. You refused every interview. You said the children deserve the attention, not you." Another guest approached, then another. Within minutes, some of the most powerful people in the ballroom were shaking Daniel Brooks' hand. Not because he was rich, but because he had quietly changed thousands of lives. Meanwhile, no one stood beside Graham. The silence around him felt heavier than any insult. He looked at Lena. Her eyes showed no anger, only sadness. That hurt him more than anything. Slowly, Graham walked towards her. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Lena, I judge your value by your bank account. I never looked at your heart." He turned to Daniel. "And I judged you because of your clothes. I was wrong." Daniel remained silent. Graham took a deep breath. Then, in front of every guest, the billionaire lowered his head. "I owe both of you an apology. I can't erase what I said, but if forgiveness is possible, I will spend the rest of my life earning it." The ballroom stood completely still. Daniel studied Graham for several long seconds. Finally, he spoke. "Real wealth isn't measured by what a man owns. It's measured by what he becomes after he realizes he was wrong." Graham's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in decades, no one saw a billionaire. They saw a father learning humility. Daniel extended his hand. After a brief pause, Graham shook it. The guests burst into applause. Some even wiped away tears. The wedding ceremony finally began. This time, there were no whispers about money, no conversations about status, only smiles. When Adrian and Lena exchanged their vows, the room celebrated not the union of two wealthy families, but the union of two good hearts. Months later, Graham quietly sold one of his luxury yachts. He donated the proceeds to the Brooks Humanitarian Trust, not to buy forgiveness, but because he had finally understood Daniel's greatest lesson. Wealth can build mansions. Character builds legacies. And sometimes, the richest person in the room is the one who never feels the need to prove it.